Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to burn a micro SD card for a Retron GX. The Retron GX has its own special firmware, and so I'm going to go ahead and put in my own SD card. I made an image of it, so I'm going to make my own. So let's go ahead and try that and see if it works. There's no firmware available, so I'm going to go ahead and find the image I need to write. And then I need to double check and make sure. Yep, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write this to number E, okay? Alright, so I'm writing the image. And while that's writing, as you can see here, on their Hyperkin website, there's no Bluetooth. There's Bluetooth controllers, support firmware updates, Duke controllers, Retron SQ, Retron 77, wired controllers for the GameCube, and there's Moonlight drivers for Mac. Unfortunately, there isn't one for the Retron GX. So if you go into products and you go into the Retron GX, let me move over here to products. All you get is this to buy it. You don't get any of the ability to get the firmware. So I have to go back to drivers and firmware, and of course you have no ability to download what you need for this. So that's the reason why I'm writing a new firmware onto the SD card. If this is successful, I'm going to go ahead and release the image that I got from the SD card so that you guys can use Win32 Disk Imager to make your own backup of your SD card. Without the SD card, the Retron GX won't work, and the problem with that is if your SD card crashes, your device is a brick and you won't be able to use it. And I've called Retron and said, hey, I have problems, and they said, well, you're on the latest firmware, we're just gonna have to send you a new device. So I'm doing a replacement with them now, but I am grabbing a copy of this image file. I don't know how good this is, but if your SD card is crashed, this is better than nothing. When I get the replacement, I'll update that SD card with the new replacement. I just want to make sure that that I have the SD card with the backup just in case. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, mine wouldn't sideload. So like, not sideload, but like hot swap. A lot of my games would just sit there and it wouldn't load. And then that was kind of problematic. They said that shouldn't be a problem, but what I found is it kind of is. So yeah, I'm kind of just waiting for this to finish up here. But yeah, that's a major problem if you're not able to back up your Retron GX firmware. I mean, you can't download it, so the only way is to image the SD card. And then if your SD card crashes, of course they do, because they're cheap, you're kind of screwed. And since they're not releasing the firmware onto the website, you can't really, recover your console that you paid $100 for. So the only thing you can do is just wait for somebody to release an image of the file onto the internet, which I'm hoping that my image file that I have here is actually gonna work. But let's see here. Yeah, like even I had Cyber Citizen GX and Cyber Citizen Rockman 2, and it was kind of buggy. And then there's other games that would just do like green screens and not work at all. So I've had like a few problems with a bunch of games, like legitimate games. So they're saying that it's a hardware fault. is why they're replacing mine. And so maybe this image file is fine. I don't know. I really think that it's just a piece of crap, and that they just didn't know what they were doing when they released this. I am hoping that there is a jailbreak soon, because there's just too many problems with it trying to load the firmware or load things. It's just not loading correctly. I don't think that it's going to be a good candidate for legitimate plays, just because of the ability of like it loading carts and stuff. It just sucks. So like your own content that you own doesn't even work right, and that's kind of what I'm sad about. Compared to the Analog Pocket, yeah, it's a couple $100 more, but it's not the Pocket, but the Duo. It's $250. It's $150 more, but it's well worth the money. And so I'm thinking like, yeah, of course it's better. So we'll see. Analog Pocket and Analog Duo does put this hands down better. But all right, so I'm going to get the SD card out that I just burnt here. Let's see how she works. I'm going to turn off the Retron, and we're going to switch it out with the original, which I had right here. And then we're going to put in the cloned SD card. If this works, I'll release the version. I couldn't get my capture card to work right. So, yeah, this image works. It's loading the game. And, yeah. So, I'll release the SD card to the internet. Because, yeah. Let me check some other games, because it said testing exe. So let me make sure games actually work before I do anything. Test PCE engine. What the hell? Okay, let me try a different game that I know works. Of course, I have to power it off, power it back on. I just want to make sure this works before I upload it. Isn't China Warrior a good one? Let's see here. It's loading it. Yeah, so the image isn't working. It just loads. It says test PCE. So let me see if, and this is a better SD card than the other one. So let me see what the computer says about it, because it's not loading a game. I might have to use a different SD card. Okay, well that SD card is bonk, so I'm gonna try a 8GB SD card that I had laying around. Since the 4 doesn't work, let's try the 8. Okay. Okay, yep, and that one was problematic too, so it didn't even show up a good drive, so we'll see if that will rewrite over it. This is an 8 gigabyte SD card instead. I don't know why this one just didn't want to work. That is just so odd. I am trying though. I may just release the firmware just so that people have it, even if it's a piece of junk and it doesn't load. Let me try a different game though. Let me try China Warrior. Test PCE is all I get. So like, I think they have like a protection on their SD card, even if you image it. So if your SD card crashes. Okay, I'm gonna try Dungeon Explorer. So I'm trying Dungeon Explorer now. Test PCE engine. That's all I'm getting on all of them. Final lap, let's try that one. Getting nothing. I don't know if it's worth releasing it or not. Okay, I'm gonna try this baseball game. This game's terrible, but we'll try it. It says test PCE. I'm gonna try the original. Okay, turning on the original with the original cartridge. So let's see. And the baseball game loads with the original SD card. Maybe I need to just delete the save out. Yeah, all I get is test PCE.exe or .pce. Okay, I'm gonna try it with just it being on and then putting it in. Yeah, it doesn't even. Okay, we're almost done with this other one. So I'm just gonna turn it off here. And then try this other cartridge. Maybe it was just a SD card that was the problem. So we're gonna try this other SD card. I mean, it's hard to find 4 gigabyte SD cards anymore. So yeah, I'm gonna have a couple 2 gigabyte ones, but they're just hard to find. This one's an 8, so we're going to try this 8 gigabyte card. Okay. This time I'm going to could be my computer, I don't know. But I can't see the SD card. Like, maybe when it does the burn, it just doesn't know what to do with it. So maybe there's multiple steps because it doesn't have a spot to put the SD card, like the files. So it can't load it because it doesn't have the files or a spot to put the files. Hey, it works. Okay, yeah, it works. This image file works. That was just the SD card that was the problem. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and upload this. But yeah, it definitely works with the SD card at the image. So yeah, if you want the file, I'll make it available. Thanks. Bye.